Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Free Thought Forum, presented by the Pennsylvania Nonbelievers. I'm I'm your host for the night, Jacob, and once again I'm joined by Doug.
Greetings, everyone. Thank you for tuning in.
It's finally good to be out over illness. I know Doug, you had to left alone last time.
Yeah, but we didn't want him in with his Ebola, but
No.
he's an atheist. He has strong constitution, and he just sloughed off the Ebola. And
No, it was actually probably the worst sore throat I've ever had, but not anywhere close to that. But my voice is slowly returning, but we got a bit to talk about tonight, but first we'll start with our normal reminders, which I'll hand over to Doug for.
Okay, tonight, on the last show, I did tell you where everything was being held, and the addresses and locations and everything. So if you don't know already, go to our website and find out. The next meeting, upcoming meeting, will be in Lancaster, and that will be on the 28th. Okay. Next York meeting will be February the 7th. Now, for those people that would like to join the organization and also vote in our up-and-coming elections in March, you will have to have your membership application in by Saturday, the 7th of February. Okay. Lebanon meeting, that is on February the 11th. The Harrisburg meeting is on February the 12th, following day. And the Chambersburg meeting will be February the 17th. And the next Free Thought Forum, this wonderful program that goes out worldwide, like that, the next Free Thought Forum will be the 10th of February, next month, at 6 p.m. Tune in. And back to Jacob.
Thanks, Doug. And just to add, the annual meeting is held on March 7th, which is just the March meeting of the York meetup. And we'll be discussing a few policy changes there as well. So, but moving on, I'm definitely looking forward to this year ahead of us. We definitely had quite an eventful 2014 here at the Pennsylvania Nonbelievers. With protests, all sorts of rallies.
Did a lot of new things.
Yeah. But definitely looking forward to a busy 2015 as well. And our main event for 2015 will be our conference, which will be here in Harrisburg. Well, not here in Harrisburg. We're in New York right now. But I'm sorry, I'm from Perry County. Anyway. But our annual meeting, our annual conference will be in Harrisburg. And over the last couple of weeks, we've been able to start announcing quite a few of our speakers for the lineup. But before that, we are also having a fundraiser for this conference. And the project is called Atheist Fights Hunger, where we are raising money to buy a lot of low-cost meals to help feed the hungry, which will be donated to local food banks. Our goal is $5,000, and as of yesterday, we're up to $3,045. So we're doing very well so far. So
Yeah, sounds it.
yeah, hopefully we'll keep getting the words out, and with $5,000, we can provide 20,000 meals for people in the area. And for those of you planning on attending the conference, we will need help packing these meals, so consider staying for Sunday afternoon, and that's when we plan to do the packing, if you would like to help out.
It's for a good cause, worthy cause.
Man. And But for the speaker lineup, we have a very, very solid lineup coming together for us. Probably the main attraction will be the Unholy Trinity, quote unquote, which is Seth Andrews, Matt Dillahunty, and Aaron Ra. They got known as the Unholy Trinity for a tour they did together last year. But I'd have to say a personal favorite of mine would be Aaron Ra. He was the one who really inspired me to be an activist. He's most known for as a science advocate, and being a science, and we definitely need that. He's from Texas, so he's constantly fighting the intrusion of creationism into public schools, into office, and so on.
Well, Texas is probably about the least scientific state of the whole bunch, at least as far as schooling goes.
Right. And the really rough part about that is because Texas is such a big market, they actually tend to control the school curriculum of surrounding states. So it's really important to fight against any curriculum changes there. I mean, just recently, this last year, they put Moses into the history books as being some sort of important figure to American history, which is kind of bizarre because in all likelihood Moses never even existed, much less had any influence. But back to Aaron Ra. He's mostly known as a blogger and has a large body of work on YouTube. Has given numerous speeches over a variety of topics. His most famous series are is the Foundational Falsehoods of Creationism series, a really great 15-part series. I recommend it to anybody who wants to get involved in the conversation. And I can tell you from being homeschooled and in a young Earth creationism curriculum, I definitely know what he's talking about, and he definitely knows, hits the points very well.
Yeah, point out though that you were initially homeschooled,
Right.
But I mean, you went to and graduated from, was it Penn State?
Well, I mean, yeah, obviously there's no homeschool college, at least not to my knowledge, unless you want to count online colleges. But no, I mean, I did get a formal education from Penn State, but the degree I took didn't really get into any of the things homeschoolers want to avoid anyway, whether it comes to history or science. Another interesting series he does is called Falsifying Phylogeny, where this is where he really does a lot in explaining evolution, mostly through the Tree of Life, which I've been finding out is kind of where a lot of the misunderstandings happen and where creationists tend to distort a lot of things, and in learning on how animals are classified, and that's kind of that's really one of Aaron Ra's specialties is the classification of animals. And he gave a really interesting. The last video in the series was called Pterosaurs or Terrible Lizards, I think was it called. It was all about the confusion between pterosaurs and dinosaurs and how that relates to the evolution of birds. So really goes into a lot of detail as to why the controversy happened and explains the ins and outs of it. So he's really an interesting character in many regards. Also has a new podcast called the Raw Man Podcast. A little bit of a play on words, of course, but the second part of the Unholy Trinity would be Matt Dillahunty, who runs the public access TV show out of Austin, The Atheist Experience, with, excuse me. And he's also one of the most sought after debaters in the country right now. Probably, I mean, I definitely see him go around. He's usually plans for about one debate a month, and I've seen him in several debates. He's very, very good. Very skilled in the arguments in both philosophical and evidentiary, And he also has his own YouTube channel where he's been going through some of the common arguments for Christianity and talking about how to construct arguments against them, not from like. And what's interesting, it's not about just here's what you say to refute it. He really dissects the arguments to help you understand where they're coming from and what are the fundamental problems with them. So, and the third part of that would be the Unholy Trinity with Seth Andrews, who hosts probably the most popular atheist podcast, which just recently had its 200th episode. So congratulations to him. He's definitely whenever I started becoming an atheist and coming to terms with it, his podcast was one of the first things I found. It was definitely a lot of help to me coming out.
Looking at the pictures they got there, they definitely do look unholy, don't they? I mean, they got the frown on their face there, but I suppose it all sells.
Well, and it's kind of funny because Aaron Ra was pagan for a while.
Yeah.
But in one of his speeches, he was joking around where he said the first time he was driving through Oklahoma, he went past a billboard that said, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live." And he said, he was laughing. He goes, I was nervous he said he was nervous when he saw it for two reasons. He said, one, I've never been to Oklahoma, and this is exactly what I was told to expect. And two, he goes, I happen to be wearing all of these, and he showed all the necklaces he was wearing. Mm-hmm. And there was like several pagan symbols, like Thor's hammer,
different talismans, and
and he was joking. He said, if I would have been pulled over, I wouldn't have even gotten away with a peace symbol, because there are Christians who think that the peace symbol is satanic. Mm-hmm. I'm not kidding. I am not kidding. When he said that, I remember as a kid being told that. So I mean, they're all very relatable, and we've had Seth Andrews up here before 2 years ago for a conference in Philadelphia, and he's a really great guy. Even though he's definitely an important figure in the movement, he's still one of the most humble guys. I was able to hang out, eat breakfast with him, and I think that can be said for all the speakers really that I've met over the years at the conferences. Is they're all so approachable. They love meeting new people.
And it's a good feeling when you go to a conference or a speaking engagement, if you can actually go face to face with the person.
Right. But moving on to the next couple of speakers, one I'm also very, very excited about is Richard Carrier. And this is probably one of my favorite author in the movement right now. He's published a large series of works on a variety of topics, mostly dealing with Christianity. Some of his more famous works include Not the Impossible Faith, subtitled Why Christianity Did Not Need a Miracle to Succeed. And the whole book is meant as a rebuttal to a book by apologist J.P. Holding, who tried to put out a whole book saying like Christianity couldn't have possibly succeeded unless these things really happen, and he just goes point by point showing that's not true. And it's a lot of common arguments you'll hear. He also does one that I thought was really interesting called Proving History, where he just takes a look at the methods used by historians to try to sort out what happened in the past, which might seem like a boring subject, but I think for me personally, after being just told what history is, it's kind of interesting to here's how they go about doing it. Here are the methods. So it really helps me evaluate claims as well, and because there's a lot of bad history out there, mm-hmm. and it's helpful to see the methods, to know when bad methods are being used, so that you can weed out what's probably false.
Well, in my opinion, Christianity succeeded uh, because the people wanted it to succeed.
Right.
The stories that were being told, and more than that, the promises that were made by Christianity.
Right.
How could anyone resist? You can live forever
Yeah.
in bliss and happiness and in heaven. Well, with the people, the way their life was, when those promises were made, well, of course they would want to cling to that promise. Well, gee, this is better than living in a mud hut or something.
Well, and he goes into that a bit in the final in one of the last chapters of Not the Impossible Faith, which is they try to claim that there was this like rapid spread of Christianity throughout, like from day one, which in actuality it kind of lingered as a fringe religion for the first 100 or so years.
A little more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And really what caused Christianity's success was the fall of the Roman Empire. Because that's when the economic hardships hit, that's when quality of life was going down, and with it kind of drug the whole, like all the pagan gods down with it. And so it was like Christianity was kind of independent of the system that was crashing all around them.
Yeah, it was the new thing.
Right. Well, and although they didn't actually sell it as new, like they tried to sell it as like the Jewish religion, which had a much more ancient tradition. Whether that tradition was truly ancient or not was kind of besides the point. But it's really interesting how he goes ins and outs of all the arguments, and really gives you a picture of what life was like back then. Because we all kind of have this image in our head what it might be like, but what it's actually like might actually surprise you. And actually, at the height of the Roman Empire, they actually had a decent society, a decent civilization, for its time. That, it's really the fall of the Roman Empire just took it back, really took quality of life back several centuries.
Well, actually, if you were an important person or someone that was well known, had a good position or job, life was quite luxurious for you.
Right.
And as compared to the slaves and everything.
Right.
But if you were invited to the forum to see an event there, then you were one of the
Right.
mucky mucks, one of the upper
Yeah,
class.
the elites
Yeah.
is usually what they refer to them as. But yeah, that's a bit of his work. He's also published a lot on philosophy and given a lot of talks on. And he's really the guy who got me into philosophy a bit, and really stressing the importance of it. And he's also has a new book out called On the Historicity of Jesus, where he's arguing that Jesus, the historical Jesus, never existed, that there was no historical Jesus. I'm still working through that. I might do a review on that eventually.
I mean, keep in mind, there were a lot of people named Jesus back then. I mean, it was name was as popular as as John is now.
Well, in the ancient Hebrew, it was the same name for Joshua.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. He kind of goes into that in one of the opening chapters. It's like, what do I mean by Jesus? Because he says it was a popular name, and he kind of goes, he does a good job of defining what he means by what he talks about. But moving on to the next speaker, David Fitzgerald, another speaker I'm really excited about. He's really given a lot of entertaining talks. I definitely recommend looking him up on YouTube, because he's such an entertaining speaker. And his books are also really, really fun to read. And he has two main books that I've read so far. The first one he's called Nailed, 10 Christian Myths That Show Why Jesus Never Existed. So as you can see, both Richard Carrier and David Fitzgerald are arguing that, you know, the Jesus we read about in the Gospels was not even based on a real person. But really what David Fitzgerald goes after is more from a counter apologetics. Like, he's just refuting what the apologists say about Jesus and the arguments they make for him. And his other book is a book about the Mormons, which I think I talked a little bit about it last year whenever the American Atheists had their annual conference in Salt Lake City in the heart of Mormon country. But it's a really, really fascinating book, and as you read through it, you will find yourself busting out laughing at the things he's saying, and he's not even telling a joke. He's just telling you how Mormonism developed
and how ridiculous it really is.
Yeah. To me, it's almost better than Not the Impossible Faith as far as establishing that Christianity did not need a miracle to succeed. You know, and that's one of the things I've done sometimes in my arguments when people are arguing about the rise of Christianity. Sometimes I'll just take all of their arguments and insert Mormonism, and like take out Christianity, insert themes about Mormonism, and really just rewrite their whole argument and use it to defend Mormonism, because it was that crazy, and so crazy it's really hard to believe it actually was as successful as it got.
Have you ever wondered really what Mormonism would be like if Joseph Smith had tried to introduce it, say 500 AD?
Yeah.
I mean, would they have just, slapped him down saying, "You kidding? You're making fun of our religion"?
Well,
I mean, it's
not. But it could have been successful. I mean,
yeah.
And I sometimes say, well, let's say, what if we had no separation of church and state, and Mitt Romney became president? He would be like their Constantine.
Yeah.
He could be their Constantine, which is kind of funny to think about. Those little events may have just brought the success of Christianity.
No, that's not saying that we support any particular candidate or party or anything, but we're just looking back and think, what a joke he was.
Right. Well, I was just more or less I was drawing the parallel of. I was just mostly drawing the parallel between, Constantine and what Romney could have been like, and it just. Where it's like the leader in charge, ended up converting to this fringe religion, and it brought that fringe religion into the mainstream. And in fact, even just Mitt Romney running for president got some of the Christians to back off of Mormonism somewhat, which is, even that shows you how. When politics and religion start to collide, they can start to feed off of each other.
Well, it was also back when JFK, John Kennedy, was running for president. I mean, everyone, we're going to elect a Catholic? It was like the worst thing that you could possibly do. We'll be ruled by the Vatican. And then all of a sudden, after many years, and he was elected, they found out it didn't mean a cotton-picking thing. All their worries were for naught. Right.
But so that's David Fitzgerald, and he also does a lot of work in San Francisco for local atheist groups there. So definitely check him out. Another returning speaker who we had in Philadelphia is Teresa McBain. She's a former Methodist preacher.
Oh, that's what I know.
Yeah, she was a preacher for many years. and it's really interesting to hear her story because she was kind of, I would almost describe her a bit like Dan Barker, that preacher you would not want to sit next to on a bus, especially when she was a kid, because it was like she was saying, even as a kid, she was, taking her Bible to school and, minister, proselytizing to people, and she was definitely the real deal.
What was that book that she wrote?
I don't think no, she didn't. She hasn't written a book.
She hadn't?
No.
Must be thinking of...
Well, I mean, Dan Barker has the book Godless.
no, it's a woman.
And that's kind of been, for preachers coming out of the ministry into atheism, that's kind of been the main book for them that they've identified with. But Teresa McBain is currently working, I think, as a trainer for recovering from religion hotlines for people coming out of religion who just need someone to talk to badly about what they're going through. They do have numbers to call to help sort it out for them. Or help them sort out what they're going through. I gotta say, I'm fortunate that my own deconversion wasn't as traumatic as I'm sure as it's been for some other people. And that's why organizations such as Recovering from Religion are there to help people who are coming out.
Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, that this is a live call-in show. Well, actually, 7-second delay on it. But if you have any questions for us or any opinions on the subjects, be sure to call on in, and we'll answer your questions or make a comment on your comments.
Yeah. Right. But so, and I think she's a very good speaker. Teresa McBain is definitely a very good speaker as well. I've watched a few of her talks on YouTube, and she's a very good communicator. I mean, of course, she's been a pastor for many years. They're very, very good communicators usually. Not quite the Jerry DeWitt get up there and preach for 30 minutes, but she's definitely really interesting to hear. And on the subject of recovering from religion, the other speaker I'm really excited to meet is Sarah Moorhead, who also does a lot of work with recovering from religion, and really is one of the hardest working, most unnoticed people in the movement right now, as far as what she's done and the work she's put into it. She definitely deserves a lot more recognition than she's had. But especially with such an important organization such as Recovering from Religion, which I would definitely, if you haven't seen it, go on the website and check out what all the things they do, because there's several different branches of Recovering from Religion now, such as the aforementioned hotlines, as well as the Secular Therapist Project that's now branching out from it too, to help people get matched up with therapists who are committed to only using secular methods. It doesn't necessarily mean that the therapists themselves are non-believers. It's just they won't bring up religion in the conversation, or at least as a means to aid someone.
Oh, but so many of them do. I mean, first thing out of their mouth is, have you tried praying?
Right.
Have you spoke to your minister?
Right. Yeah, and that's some of the things she's been working on with Recovering from Religion. And if you want in on an inside joke that's been kind of flying around the internet, look up her video where she's I can't remember the title of the video, but apparently she and David Smalley of Dogma Debate got into a debate of whether or not a taco could be considered a sandwich. It's a really, I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's a speech you should go look up on YouTube.
I never want to hear you, rap one of my jokes or puns again.
What? What? We can't have a debate over whether or not a taco is a sandwich?
I suppose we could, but I mean, some of my puns are better than that. That's okay. I'll give you
It's
that.
not. It's not even me saying it. It was them. But well, it was a humorous speech because David Smalley's up there trying to defend it, whilst they gave her a mic in the audience and she's heckling him as the speech is going on. But it's just one of those jokes. If you've ever, sometimes I've seen it circulate around the internet a few times, and if you don't know what they're talking about, it was something going on between her and David Smalley. And I skipped over someone here. I'm sorry. Let me go back. When I was talking about Aaron Ra, I meant to also mention his co-host for Ramen, which was Mark Nebo, who also works for Be Secular. He's also I think the co-president of Be Secular, and he will also be our master of ceremony for the for the event, for the conference. So it'd be really great. We had him in Pittsburgh. He was really fun to get to know, and he's definitely a great guy. Another person that just doing a lot out there for the movement and promoting the separation of church and state. So with so I don't think my throat's quite back together yet. Sorry about that. But moving on, we'll also have Mendissa Thompson, who is the founder of Black Nonbelievers, which is an organization which is, I think, a very important organization, because the atheist community has taken some criticism. Actually,
Yeah. Just gave him a whole cough drop here. I know it helps my throat.
Yeah. Well, I crackled out all over the mic, but thanks. But it's definitely good to see someone out there working towards diversity in the movement and working towards, because one thing I've noticed there was a few books I was reading last year that talked a little bit about, that had essays from different people in the movement, coming from, whether it's a different race or a different religion they were coming out of, different part of the world, and they all have their own unique story to tell, and their own unique circumstances and problems to overcome. So I can say, so to have a support group there specifically for the Black nonbelievers, to provide to help them with their unique set of circumstances, I think is definitely something that's needed in the movement.
But I mean, have you given some any thought to the fact that this is for people that have come out of the closet,
right,
that are feeling a bit of the opposition from the religious people. But I can imagine that if you are a religious person, or I should say, were a religious person, and then all of a sudden you, for the lack of a better word, come to your senses, but you haven't told anyone yet. And you go through this whole cotton-picking thing in your mind of being a non-believer but still in the closet. I mean, you must have to fight with yourself, and
Right.
on a daily basis,
Right.
and it's got to be hard for that for them too. Maybe people should also give some thought to putting on presentations for people that really are still in the closet. Now, I know there are things like helping people come out of the closet, but maybe something for people that can't come out of the closet for one reason or another, to be comfortable in the closet and not beat themselves up.
Well, every situation is unique, and that's kind of some of these. As I was just saying, like some of these compilations of essays, and there's a couple of different books where all they are just compilations of several different coming out stories from several different people who come out of all different backgrounds, and they've all got their own unique thing to say.
Yeah.
And they've all had their own unique problems to overcome, and that's why I think it's important we try to be as diverse a movement as we can to help as many different people as we can, because just because people coming out of religion, out of different backgrounds, are each going to have a different set of problems that we need to help with. And I mean, on a similar note, we'll also have Muhammad Said, who is the founder of the Ex-Muslims of North America. And again, for someone, talk about unique problems, people coming out of Islam often face death threats, even here in America. So that's that's one thing I like about
Especially honor killings.
right. They're definitely not as common here in America, but they still happen.
Yeah.
They still do happen, and I think that's one of the things that's kind of worrisome is whenever you look at some of the things that we associate with the more radical Islam countries. The countries where radical Islam has rule over law, is we look at some of those things that happen, but we have to realize that sometimes those things still happen here in the United States, and I think it's important to bring awareness to that. And and I got to say, one thing I like about our lineup is we definitely have a lot of diversity in the lineup. We have a lot of people, former pastors, lifelong atheists, all coming from different religions, different all sorts of different backgrounds.
Some former pastors.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying.
Because I mean, they should be able to give really both sides of the
Right.
argument. There, I can't think of anyone better that's been so heavily involved in a religion and supposedly believed, and then all of a sudden do a 180
Yeah.
like that. That's probably have quite a bit of insight.
Right. And one name I didn't, unfortunately, I didn't have time to grab the photo of, but Ben Blancard of Foundation Beyond Belief will also be joining us. And we've mentioned Foundation Beyond Belief several times on this broadcast, but they are probably the most well-known and largest secular charity in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And they promote all kinds of different events and really do a lot of humanitarian work overseas, as well as different charities, both here and abroad.
Mm-hmm.
And so he'll be here to talk about a bit about that. And we were able to and we're definitely a big support. We really support what Foundation Beyond Belief does, and I mean Dogma Debate, the radio podcast recently did was doing a telethon or a podcast-a-thon. They were hoping to raise maybe $5,000 for Foundation Beyond Belief. They ended up raising $50,000. So it's
people are out there that want to contribute,
right? And Foundation Beyond Belief does just such a terrific job in what they do, and what they're out there trying to do is just amazing.
Are they going to do anything as far as light entertainment? I realize the speakers are entertaining, but
right?
I mean,
that's what I was gonna say. Is it's not just about when we talk about the conference, we do have a lot of speakers and to give a lot of talks, some informative, some a little bit more lighthearted. But we also want people to have fun at these conferences. These conferences are really meant to be fun, and so we do have a bit of entertainment lined up. Right now, we have returning is George Robb, and a newcomer is Maribeth Mooney, and now I'm definitely becoming a fan of George Robb. He's a really funny musician, and the way he starts some of his performances is the first song he sings. He starts playing "When You Wish Upon a Star," and he says, "When you wish upon a star, it makes no difference," and he just ends the song there. It's like. It's a joke that only a skeptic would get.
Yeah, I heard a good comedian the other day. Matter of fact, it's from our technical director there, Mr. Rumpelstiltskin, and he gave me this tape. What was the person's name?
Jim Jeffries.
Jim Jeffries, and he had a tape there that probably the first 15 minutes of it was sort of anti-religious, but it was hilarious.
Yeah.
And
right. Yeah, it's fun, and I mean some of their and not all these songs are anti-religious. Some of them, like one of my favorite songs by George Robb is called "The Good Old Days," and he just goes off about it's a satirical look at it, basically saying the whole notion of the good old days is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I can't wait till he releases. I don't think he's actually formally released that song yet, but I can't wait till he does. But he'll say things like it was something about it was fun without ends until polio killed half your friends. It was. I mean, he just goes on and on about, it really wasn't that great in the good old days.
Yeah, the thing is that 50 years from now, you're probably going to look back on this as the good old days. And I look back 50 years and I'm going, oh, yeah, those were the good old days. When in reality, it's just the same old, same old.
You're still going to be alive 50 years from now?
Oh, no. I hope not.
I'm sorry. No. I couldn't resist. I'm sorry. I am sorry.
I'll be so decrepit. But that's okay. That's the one for him. Good old Jacob got me again. One for each camera. But I understand. What goes around comes around.
Yeah, it's so that's our current confirmed speakers. That's not the complete list yet. There's a couple more we're still working on, working out the details for. Hopefully, we'll get some more confirmed by next show, and a couple names I really, really hoping we can get confirmed and be able to announce next time. But if you want, tickets are currently on sale at atheistpa.org. And if you purchase your tickets by February 1st, you can still get an early bird discount on the tickets. And also on the website, it will also give you the code. It will also give you a code to enter for the hotel to get a discount rate on the hotel room. And the website will also contain all the information on the hotel, and everything you need should be there on. And again, that's at atheistpa.org, and that will also contain all the different excuse me, all the information you'll need on the conference. And if you want to see the videos of our previous conferences, we have them all online on our YouTube channel, PA Nonbelievers. And there you can also find all the archive of this TV show.
Going back, thanks to Jacob, who archived everything and spent many long hours there editing and downloading them to or uploading them to YouTube. So there is quite a history of the thing, and once something gets on the internet, it's alive forever, like that. So Jacob will probably live in infamy forever, like that, as will I. So I will never die. So maybe 50 years from now, at least my spirit will still be alive, irritating the hell out of people. But that's just one man's opinion.
Well, before we move on to the next thing, did you have anything you want to talk about tonight?
No, I was kind of relying on you to bail out the show. I've got bits and pieces, but nothing.
Okay. Yeah, but that's kind of the big event for this year. I'm just kind of looking at what else we have this year. Typically, our table season starts on Mother's Day in York, although we may have one event before that. I think we started a new event last year, but I don't know if we're going to be redoing that or not. Hopefully we'll know within the next couple of weeks. But other than that, our probable first table event will be on Mother's Day in York.
Yeah, that's when we get our most visitors to our booth, and also where our best sales are of atheist memorabilia and bumper stickers and buttons, and we also have various free tracts that we hand out with information like the Bible, fallacies,
Right.
the Easter quiz. Was Jesus a real person? Dozens of these things. So, even if for nothing else other than to pick up one of these and leave it in the pew of your favorite church, not yet. Come on around. Tuck it in the Bible and the hymnal. No, I didn't ask for that. That was just a joke.
Right. But then we usually participate in the St. Patrick's Day parades, raising awareness for the blasphemy laws that still exist in Ireland. And I think it's a good opportunity to bring attention to that despite being a Western European nation, they've still got some serious issues with religion involved in government.
Now, keep in mind that there are two St. Patrick's Day parades.
Right.
You've got one here in York and one in Harrisburg, and we do enter both of the things, unless it's a hurricane or a blizzard or something like that. But barring acts of God, we'll be there marching, usually toward the back. but you'll see our big banners there, PA non-believers, and also in references to the blasphemy laws in Ireland too, and to also our brother atheists in Ireland, because there's a lot of them there too, and they're being muzzled, and they don't want to be any more than we would. We want their absolute freedom of speech.
Right. And as you were saying about Act of God, it kind of reminded me, last year we had our first table in Adams County, and one of the things that happened was it was kind of clouding up. It looked like it was going to rain, and someone on the stage actually said, you can either pray for the rain to hold off or go to the atheist booth to see if they have an umbrella. It was
That was cute.
and after that, our president Brian Fields immediately went home and started looking into umbrellas. It was
Well, he lives close by, right?
yeah. It was definitely one of the funniest, I think one of the highlights of the tables of last year. But I'd still have to say probably our most eventful tables as far as getting arguments seems to be in Anvil.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, I've been in Anvil a few times. We've also marched in their parade too, and there seems to be a lot of people there who are quite willing to share their opinions.
Well, last year in the Anvil Memorial Day Parade, we had people running out into the parade to hand us tracts.
Thinking that we're going to be saved.
Yeah, and then we walked past one group they were all chanting the Lord's Prayer at us. And I don't know, Anvil, I don't know what it is about Anvil that's just the most, antagonistic. In fact, we also had our first, our first table in Perry County last year in Newport, and that actually wasn't too bad. We only had really one person really try to argue with us, although we were kind of on the end of the whole thing, and rain might have kept everybody away, but we'll have to see how it goes this year. But actually, that's the thing. There's actually, despite being like backwoods Perry County, there's actually a lot more atheists there than you think. Last year somebody wrote a letter to the editor trying to say that, well, Bill Nye doesn't, it was in the wake of the Nye-Ham debate, and they were trying to say that, oh, Bill Nye doesn't know what he's talking about, he should study the Bible more, what this, that, and tried to, go into all this so-called evidence proving the Bible. So I wrote a letter back just refuting every single argument they just made. And actually, I got an overwhelmingly positive response for that. Like, I had people sending me random Facebook messages telling me, hey, thanks for writing that letter. I had other people saying things. Well, the most awkward one was people apparently went to my mom to ask me if this is your son, right?
No, never seen him before.
No. Yeah.
Just happen to have the last name.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of the people I used to go to church with probably don't know. So I think that's part of what makes me nervous about doing things in Newport is, most of my close family knows, but apart from
Oh,
that,
they're still close, huh?
yeah,
I know. Okay.
actually, it's I have a relatively uneventful coming out story where it wasn't. Well, I think my mother kind of knew for a long time that I was full of doubts, and I don't think she was even surprised because I've always kind of been the skeptic, and I mean, really, it really hasn't been damaging to our relationship. I've gotten into a couple of fights with my dad, but although I will admit I picked a couple of them, I did pick a couple of fights because I was mad that he was picking a couple of fights, and we've since learned to just not talk about it.
Yeah, but come on. If children, especially sons, don't get in a fight with their father sometime as in their life, then they gotta live in a different house.
Right.
You know, I mean, you have to disagree with your father,
Right.
and your father has to disagree with you and correct you.
Right. What do you mean correct?
Well,
Are you assuming that the
No.
father is always right?
Yeah, he assumes that he's always right. That's the whole point. You can never really win an argument with your father. All right, you got out of that one.
Okay, now that I will agree with.
Yeah.
Just like I can never win an argument against my oldest brother. You know,
Oh,
it's,
no?
it's the same. Of course, I will say I never really go into arguments expecting to win because I don't really feel like that's necessary. But
No. Or it's whether or not something is worth getting into an argument over.
right. I mean, there's always that. And it's funny you say that because you'll always get into an argument with your dad because people talk about things like that or things getting messy, and I'm like, that's just life. That happens.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that's sort of nice about being an atheist is we don't have to put a reason to it. We don't have to find a deeper meaning for it. It just is what it is.
And we accept it, what it is. And if someone can show us something different, fine, we'll consider that until someone can show us positively that
Right.
we've gone down the wrong path.
And that's the weird thing. I've seen a lot of Christians try to say things like, well, if you believe in a God, it makes more sense of what goes on around us. And I have to firmly disagree with that.
Makes less sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot less sense. It makes more sense to say that this stuff just happens. Arguments happen. People go through bad things. People do bad things. People do good things, and it is what it is. And it definitely is a. We don't have to go through the difficulty of trying to find the reason for it and just accept that maybe there is none.
Yeah.
But we only got a couple of minutes winding down here. Again, our next show will be on the 10th. And hopefully we'll see you at the next couple of meetups coming up, which are always a good time, discussing whatever's been going on in the news over the last couple of weeks. Sort of what we do on the show, only a little bit less formal, although I wouldn't really call this formal.
Although next time we hope that everyone sort of gets off their butt and gives us a phone call like that, and don't let us go on talking and rambling on like that. Give us something to think about. Ask us a question.
Right. But and hopefully we'll have more. Hopefully we'll have more information on the conference and a few more confirmed speakers. And keep getting. If you've donated to the Atheist Fights Hunger campaign, please get the word out more. If you know people who might be interested in this charitable goal or charitable drive.
Donations, yeah. Let us get to our goal, $5,000. I mean, it's not too far to go, so pull your wallet out of your pocket and go for it. We thank you for tuning in and watching us tonight.
Yes, and once again, I'm Jacob, and
This is Doug.
we'll see you next time.